welcome everyone to the public workshop for I-95 and SR 896. We're going to wait a minute while everybody joins, and then we'll get started shortly. So let us pause for about 1 minute while everybody joins. I actually have an excellent crowd this evening, which is very exciting that everybody could join us virtually. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to Brad Damtoff. He is the DelDOT project manager.
Thank you, Bill. As Bill said, I am Brad Damtoff. I'm DelDOT's project manager for the 95 and 896 project. I want to first start by thanking you all for joining us tonight. And then I will introduce our panel for this evening. So our panel consists of Pam Steinbach, who is DelDOT's Chief of Project Development North, Brianna Kovach, who is the group engineer in Project Development North, myself, Bill Conway from Century Engineering, who will be our moderator this evening, Steve Pinoza from Century, who is our design project manager from Century Engineering, and Kate Ford, who is our lead highway designer on the project. We'll also have joining us Senator Hansen and Representative Kowalko. I believe Senator Hansen will be joining with a few words later in the evening. So with that, I will turn you back over to our moderator, Bill Conway, and we'll continue on from there.
Thank you very much, Brad. What we'd like to do first is go through some housekeeping items right now. These next couple slides will just run through how everybody can participate in this workshop this evening. So what you see on the screen is in Zoom, there's a bunch of buttons at the bottom. There is a Q&A button that will be on the screen the entire time. So at any point during the presentation this evening, you can go ahead, hit that Q&A button. It will go ahead and bring up a dialog box and you can type in the question. Now, only the panelists will be able to see that question. And what we'll do is we'll keep those till the end, and then we can actually answer them at the end once we get through the presentation. The next slide kind of shows, if you can't use that function or if you're on the phone, you can always add Bradley Damtoff at delaware.gov at any time during this presentation, and he will respond. So I'll say, each question will be reviewed by the moderator and the panelists, and we'll respond verbally to the questions that are chosen. Some questions may be answered directly within the Q&A function or at a later date. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Steve Pinoza, who will be giving the presentation.
Thanks, Bill. Just going to go over here real quickly. This is our agenda for the presentation this evening. We're going to go through the project background and then discuss the proposed improvements, talk about our anticipated project schedule, and then talk a little bit about accelerated contract delivery. And then, as Bill said, at the end of the presentation, we'll do a question and answer session. So let's talk about the project background. So these are our project limits on 896 from the Glasgow High School entrance, going north on 896 up to the intersection with Welch Track Road. Along I-95, our limits are just east of the toll plaza, and then that's going to run to the east over the Route 72 to about 2,000 feet. And you can see the clearing there. That is for big overhead power lines. So those are our project limits. Here's a drone shot of the existing interchange. You could tell that this was definitely done during the PM commute home. You could see in the outside travel lane of I-95 southbound, cars are starting to back up, which is one of the major issues with the current interchange configuration. This slide right here, we show in pretty much every presentation we give on this project. This slide tells the story of the existing interchange all in one slide. So let me walk you through a little bit of it here. So what you see in pink, let me put my pointer on. So what you see in pink here, this is a weave condition that we have on the existing southbound 896 bridge over I-95. So particularly in the PM peak commute, you have cars traveling southbound on 95 to get off on the loop ramp to go south on 896. So those cars are weaving with the cars coming on southbound 896 that are trying to go on northbound I-95. So there's a lot of friction that's created here that creates backups onto this loop ramp, and then up I-95 southbound for up to 2 miles, can be as long as 2 miles there. The blue and the yellow shows where we have traffic congestion, and the blue depicts where we have crash clusters. Interesting thing with this interchange is that they completely match each other. So where we have congestion, we have crashes. And then some of the other things to point out, some of these existing ramps you can see have some sharp turns with some flat areas on the ramps. So this is, it's not good ramp geometry. So it does cause a lot of cars speeding up, slowing down. So again, you can see those crash clusters through here. And then lastly, this ramp J is more of a tight radius. So you kind of can see that there, the congestion that causes the backups. This slide shows, you don't have to look at all the numbers, it's a little overwhelming, but this slide shows the traffic counts we did in 2016, and then our projections for our design year of 2040. Just wanted to point out that this interchange is a major diverge. So what I mean by that is in the evening commute, the traffic that's traveling southbound on I-95, 2/3 of the traffic gets off at this interchange. And coincidentally, 1/3 of it is to go north towards Newark, and then 1/3 of it travels south on 896 towards Glasgow and Middletown. So and then only 1/3 of the traffic continues on I-95. So that's a major traffic movement getting off the interchange. And then in the morning commute, you have the opposite, where 2/3 of the traffic on I-95 northbound is generated by this interchange. So, looking at these numbers, for instance, this northbound 95 to northbound 896, to 95 northbound, the volumes that we have on this ramp, single lane ramp today, already would warrant it being 2 lanes with the existing traffic. Back in our first workshop we discussed the purpose and need of the project. So this kind of sets up why we're doing what we are. So the purpose of the project was to improve the safety and traffic operations of I-95 and SR 896 interchange in order to maintain mobility for local and through traffic while not adversely affecting the operational performance of the I-95 Newark toll plaza. So what's that mean? So we're focusing on 2 things. First, we're trying to improve the I-95 traffic affecting by merging and diverging through and entering exit traffic. So what that basically means is we're trying to fix the congestion and the backups that we have out there now. And then the second part, decrease the amount, frequency, and severity of crashes. So we did updated crash analysis. So we pulled numbers for a 3-year period from 2017 to 2020, had 527 crashes and 2 fatalities. So to think about that, that equates to approximately 1 crash every other day. So we have a lot of traffic congestion at this interchange, and we have a safety issue as well. So public outreach that we've done to date for some of you that have participated in those efforts. Back in December of 2017, we did our first public workshop, which was in person pre-COVID, much different format than today. At that workshop, we presented our purpose and need, as well as our 3 build alternatives. We had 137 people that attended. The public was very much in favor of the project. And looking through the comment forms that we got, 43% of people preferred alternative 1, which was our double flyover alternative. And then following that up in November of 2018, we sent out a project newsletter. And this announced that alternative 1, the double flyover, was chosen to take into preliminary design. So now let's talk about our proposed improvements. So while the main interchange project is going through design, we did some breakout projects that we're calling our interim improvement projects. So 2 of those were completed in 2020. We did 1 project, both of these 2 projects were signing and restriping projects that we could get out quickly, that would help try to alleviate some of the issues that we have out there today, but not being able to solve the main issue of that weave that we discussed on the bridge. That requires, reconfiguration of the interchange. So northbound I-95 signing and restriping, which we did in the summer of 2020. We created a dedicated lane for northbound 896 to northbound I-95. So the ramp traffic on that ramp traveling northbound 896 to northbound 95 now merges into its own lane. So prior to that, I-95 is down to 3 lanes, and then this ramp traffic comes on as its own dedicated lane, so that helps with the merging of the traffic. And then we did a second project, followed that in the fall, on northbound 896, where we created, again, a dedicated lane, this time for southbound 95. So coming off of southbound I-95, heading towards Newark, northbound 896, that's now striped as its own lane. And you no longer have that short, really small merge area that was there previously. And then we have a third project that will be coming out this year that has to do with southbound I-95. So it's a re-signing and striping of the right travel lane as an exit for northbound and southbound 896. So basically what this project is going to do is better define the outside right travel lane of 95 southbound to make that the exit ramp, and define it a little better, do better signing to keep the traffic that's slowing down to the right and keep the traffic that's going through to the left. We're also going to provide some permanent congestion ahead signage with the flashing lights for the existing queue detection system that alerts drivers of slow traffic ahead. The queue detection system is out there operating today. If you've driven through there, now it's being operated with 2 message boards. So these signs will replace those message boards permanently. And as part of this project, we're going to construct 2 new overhead sign structures to provide additional signage in advance of the existing interchange signing. So these 2 sign structures will be built to the east of what's out there today. And these signs were already going to be incorporated into the final interchange. So we're just putting up these 2 structures ahead of time to, again, help with some of the signing leading up to the 896 to better define that exit. And this project should be started and finished in the fall of this year. So this is just a diagram of the sign that we're doing. Again, it's putting up 2 new sign structures and then also doing some overlay signage on the existing sign structures that are out there today. So now let's talk about our proposed interchange. So those of you that came to the first workshop, you've seen something very similar to this. It has been revised since then, but the general layout of the interchange that we call the double flyover is the same. It's a little hard to see things at this scale. If we were meeting in person today, this would be the big board that we would be all crowded around talking. But I have some slides coming up that will show it a little more detail. So as we discussed earlier, we'll zoom in here on the actual interchange itself. The 2 flyover ramps is what's going to separate the traffic that we talked about that has that weave problem on the bridge. So we're separating these 2 major movements to get the traffic that's backing up off 95, so that it doesn't do that anymore. So now if you're coming south out of Newark, you'll take this new flyover ramp up over 95, over 896, and then merge on to I-95 northbound. If you're coming southbound on I-95, you'll again take the new exit ramp across the Christina River, over 896, up on Iron Hill, and then merge south with 896. So again, these 2 flyovers get rid of that weave condition that we had on the bridge originally, or today. So this slide is just a summary of the proposed design elements. So again, it's a complete reconfiguration of the existing interchange. All the ramps are getting reconfigured. We have to do some pretty extensive widening on I-95 southbound and northbound. And these are for the new ramp acceleration and deceleration lanes. The ramps are going to tie in, have much longer acceleration lanes. The southbound ramp will have a 2-lane deceleration lane. So we're adding a lot more capacity for the merging and diverging of the traffic. As I said earlier, this is a major diverge interchange here. 6 brand new bridges, 16 retaining walls to retain our fill, 7 overhead and 4 cantilever sign structures. We're going to be widening 3 mainline I-95 bridges for the new ramps for that widening that I discussed. And then we're also going to rehabilitate the 4 mainline I-95 bridges that fall within the project limits. So a lot of work is being done for this interchange. Now I'm going to walk you through each of the different ramps movements that will be in the future configuration. So what we're calling is ramp A. This would be if you're coming southbound on 95 and you want to exit to go to northbound 896 into Newark. This ramp is very similar than it is today as far as getting off and then merging onto the right. Ramp C, the flyover we talked about, southbound on 95 to get to southbound 896. Then we have our other flyover, ramp D, which is your southbound 896 coming out of Newark to head on northbound I-95 towards Wilmington. And then these are our low volume ramps on the south side of the interchange. So ramps F, G, and H. So as you're coming northbound on I-95 to get off and to go north or south on 896, you'll take ramp H. Very similar configuration to how it is today. The ramp is just going to be realigned. And then going the other way, 896 northbound or southbound to head south on 995. You'll take those exit ramps. And again, configurations are very similar they are today. They're just moved closer to the interchange. And then finally, we have ramp J, which is our other heavy ramp movement. And this is your northbound 896 to 95 northbound. As I said today, that ramp is only one lane. So in the future, this will be a 2-lane ramp. We did add some additional work to the project since our last workshop. This work through the old Baltimore Pike intersection was originally going to be a project done in advance of the interchange. Construction for the interchange was moved up, which we'll talk about a little later, 2 years. So it was decided we needed to incorporate this work into the interchange project itself. So this section of the project is incorporating a third through lane on southbound 896. So coming southbound on 896, there'll be now a third through lane through the intersection of Old Baltimore Pike. And then we're going to drop that third lane before we get to the Glasgow High School entrance. The original 896 project, when it was dualized in the mid-90s, actually set it up to be 3 lanes in each direction. So the impacts were very minimum to add this extra lane through here. This slide's for all the bridge fans out there, all the different structures that we have on the project. The pink are our new big curved girder structures. The top left, you see the blue, that's a new bridge over the Christina River. The green are the bridges that we talked about to either be widened and rehabilitated. The yellow you see there is a culvert that's going to be extended. And then the orange lines that you see on the 2 flyover ramps are all of our new retaining walls. So just wanted to point to the slide that you can see that there's a large number of structures that we have on this project. One of the unique elements about the project is that directly generated from our public feedback that we got at the first workshop, there was a big need for a shared use path crossing I-95. So we were able to accommodate that with our alternative, 10-foot wide shared use path that'll connect from Old Baltimore Pike up to Welsh Track Road. And again, this provides the missing link across I-95 for multimodal. As the trail comes off of 896 and runs along ramp D, you can see there in yellow, it'll be protected by a concrete barrier from the traffic going through the interchange. And here's a rendering of what that's going to look like. You can see on the right, that'll be a shared use path, and it'll be separated from the ramp traffic with a concrete barrier. We do have some impacts to resources, but we have no direct impacts to Iron Hill Park, which was another big reason that we selected the alternative that we did. We also have no direct impacts to Cooch's Bridge Historic District. We do have wetland impacts that are going to require mitigation. So we are in the process now of evaluating off-site locations for a wetland mitigation site, as there's nothing on site that's suitable for the requirements we need to do the mitigation. We also have impacts to trees, so that's also going to require mitigation. And again, we're evaluating some off-site locations for tree mitigation. Some of those are also going to be sites that we're looking at for wetland mitigation as well. And then last, I just want to point out that there is a temporary impact to a bus stop that's in front of Roadway Inn, and that'll be further coordinated with the department, whether there's a temporary bus stop added or if we direct people to the bus station that's about 1,600 feet, I think, up the road from there. This project does not have a lot of right-of-way needs. We have very limited property impacts. The majority of the interchange itself along I-95 is being built within the existing property that the state owns now. This slide shows what we do need. So what you see in green are PEs, which are permanent easements that we need for both utilities and the shared use path, as well as some drainage on the left side of the screen. And then the blue is a TCE, which is a temporary construction easement. So this is just a temporary easement that we need during construction to do some of our tie-in work, some repaving at the entrances, that type of work. I'm not going to go into the construction phasing for this project as it's still being refined, and we'll discuss why a little later that's still in the refinement stage. But one of the things we are looking at doing is utilizing smart work zone applications during the construction. So there's a lot of different things that go into that we're analyzing now, but the idea with smart work zone is to help to alleviate traffic congestion during construction, provide warnings for slowing traffic ahead, and the biggest thing is to provide, a safer work zone for our contractor as well as for the traveling public. Our estimated total project cost is $165 million. The good news is that DelDOT received a infra grant for $56.8 million. So infra stands for Infrastructure for Rebuilding America. And basically, the grant is to build and repair critical pieces of the freight and highway transportation network. The selection that we were selected is based off of reducing the congestion and bottlenecks to the freight network, as well as increasing safety of the interchange. So what this has allowed is the project to get locked into FY23, which is the fall of 22 construction. So that's when I talked about the project getting moved 2 years up in construction. It had previously been pushed out, and now we were able to move the project back up on schedule when we originally were planning on constructing it. And this also has allowed us to pursue accelerated project delivery, which I'll go into in a little bit. So our anticipated project schedule. So we began the project back in 2016. We began our design. In 2017, we did an alternative study, and then we came out for our first workshop in December. In 2018, as I said, that's when we determined our preferred alternative and announced it to the public. 2019 into 2020, we were doing our preliminary design. We submitted preliminary plans to the department in February of 2020. Here we are today in February at our preliminary plans workshop. Next month, we are turning in our semi-final plans, and then we'll have final construction plans due in the fall of this year. So then moving forward, based off of our preliminary design, we're looking at a 3-year construction and we're looking at the fall of 22 to the fall of 25. But we'll talk about that as well with the accelerated contracting in a minute to shorten that up. So moving forward, we will be doing a robust public awareness campaign leading up to and during construction. There will be coordination with the local businesses along the 896 corridor to the north of the interchange in particular. And then additional outreach once the construction phasing is finalized. So now I just want to talk a little bit about accelerated project delivery. So again, locking in our construction funds allowed us to pursue this. So this project is moving into a contracting method. It's called CMGC. So Contract Manager, General Contractor. So this is a unique method used to accelerate project delivery. So basically, DelDOT, which we're in the process of right now, hiring a contractor that's going to work with our design team prior to construction. The contractor is going to act like a consultant in the design process. They can offer new innovations, best practices, help to reduce costs and schedule risks as a result of the contractor's years of experience doing the actual work. Once the design phase is complete, the contractor, the project owner, DelDOT, negotiate on the price for the construction contract, as well as a third party that also evaluates the project cost. And if all those parties are in agreement with the cost, then the construction phase is kicked off and the construction will begin. So it allows us to get to construction even faster. CMGC is currently being used on the Restore the Corridor project in I-95 of Wilmington, for those that are familiar with that project. So what are the advantages of CMGC? Fewer change orders and less overruns. So working with the contractor, we can identify things in the design to look at that we're not going to get hit with changes during the construction because the contractor is working with us. Efficiency during design from collaboration with the contractor. We're going to work together on the design. On opportunities for innovation during design. Contractor, as a design team, we may have innovations that we bring to the contractor, see if they're feasible with how they want to do things, and vice versa. They're going to bring their ideas to us that they've done for other projects that they think can help save time and money on this project. And as I said, we can begin construction before design's even completed. Similar to the Restore the Corridor project, they did early work packages. Same thing can be done here, where we can start construction even earlier than the design complete, or we're getting ready to do the final interchange construction. It's basically a better relationship with the contractor. We're going to work in a team atmosphere. Normally we design the project, the contract's bid out, and the contractor and us go back and forth. This is going to be a complete collaboration on the project with the contractor. So it also mitigates owner risk. So it's going to mitigate the risk for DelDOT and then optimize the construction schedule. And the reason that we're still waiting to refine our construction phasing is a lot of it's going to have to do with the way the contractor wants to build the job. This project allows itself to be built faster based off the forces that the contractor has. You can open up a lot of areas and work on them at the same time outside of traffic. There's a lot of areas that we can work. So that's probably the biggest advantage to me is optimizing our construction period to, limit the exposure to the public, and also, if we can build it faster, we can build it cheaper. So now I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator, Bill, and we'll go through our questions and answer session. You're muted, Bill.
There we go. Now everybody should be able to hear me.
You're good.
Good. Now I wanted to kind of go through these slides real quick on how to participate. We've had several questions come in, which is very excellent. So anything anybody's thought of during the presentation, go ahead now. You can see at the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A button. Go ahead and click on that. And then you can go ahead and type in the question. So with that, we have several questions. What we'll do is we'll start addressing some of them now. We've had several on talking in general about the amount of traffic getting on and off at this intersection, and some questions regarding the tolls, etc. But I think maybe, Steve, it would be good to kind of touch back on one of the initial slides that kind of talked about the purpose of this project.
Yeah, let me pull up the slideshow. There we go. So as I said, this project is a major diverge. There is a lot of traffic today that gets off to go north and south of the interchange. The interchange itself, that's the biggest issue. It's just, it doesn't have the capacity to meet the traffic on and off. If you see, it's almost the volumes here are almost to the point where it would be a major diverge for two interstates. That's the volume of the traffic that you get, especially in your peak hours.
And just to piggyback off of what Steve was saying too, and kind of what he mentioned earlier, I just kind of want to reiterate that not only do we have the operational issues here at the interchange, we have those major safety issues too. And it seems to be a pretty direct correlation with the operational issues that we see here. Yep, this is the slide. And so just trying to reiterate again that we're really trying to solve the issues that we see. Again, the purpose and need of this project, understanding, yes, it is a bigger ticket project, but throughout the years, actually probably over a decade, there have been different changes that we've tried to implement at this interchange. And there have been some small fixes on the ramps. And as Steve had mentioned earlier too, we've done some interim projects between when we started this one back up again in 2016 to now. And you know, we've done these type of little Band-Aid projects, and ultimately we still have these issues out here. So that's why we need kind of this big makeover of the interchange.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Next question in general is regarding the noise levels along this corridor. So, and there were several questions asked, is there any concerns with any additional noise that this project may bring? So Steve, I'll turn that back over to you.
So as part of the NEPA process that we go through for our environmental document, we have to do noise monitoring. So we did do our noise monitoring for this project, and based off of that noise study, we did not warrant having to do noise mitigation.
All right, thank you very much. Next question is regarding kind of how much of the Iron Hill slope will be removed, or is that the flyover? Just kind of maybe in specific, talking about, impacts to Iron Hill.
Yeah, so let me get to the proposed interchange. There we go. So the interchange itself is staying, within the existing right of way that DelDOT owns. It does get close out here. The existing right of way line for there is out there. We're not cutting into Iron Hill in this area. So where you see the ramp D flyover, let me use my pointer. So where the ramp D flyover is, we're actually coming up at a pretty good grade to get up onto a shelf. So in this area, we're sitting up on top of Iron Hill. The only cut that we do have is down here for this ramp C, where it goes underneath of here, but we're not going onto the Iron Hill property at all with this alternative. We had other alternatives that did, and this is the one that did not, and that was one of the big reasons that we went with this direction.
All right, thank you very much. Question regarding signals. Are any of the ramps going to be signalized?
No, that's a good question though. Today you have these two ramps that come, from northbound 95 to get off to go to 896, and then from 896 to go southbound on 95. They're unsignalized intersections today. So when we did the traffic modeling, the traffic that's going to be on 896 between this ramp D flyover and this off ramp, so it's actually less traffic because we're taking the traffic off the bridge now, basically. Where before, you had the traffic that wanted to come out of Newark to go north, went across the bridge to loop around, and then you had the traffic in the other direction that wanted to get off on this loop ramp and go this way. So we're removing the traffic that was in between. So it does not warrant a traffic signal. Like I said, there's actually less traffic. And the other thing is that between where these two ramps intersect with 896 will only be one lane now. It only warrants one lane of traffic. So we're restriping it to be one lane. So it'll be much easier to make that movement than it probably is today.
Adding on to that, Steve, while you're in that general area, there's a question about any improvements at Wells Track from 896 or on 896 to Wells Track. Maybe touch on some of the interim improvements that are out there today.
Yeah, so when you get north of the interchange up to Wells Track Road, the road itself is not getting changed. The only thing we're doing is we're adding the shared use path, which will go up to Wells Track Road. But the project limits are basically from the Wells Track Road intersection south. So we're not touching 896 north, basically from the Wells Track intersection north.
Okay, thank you. All right. Question regarding how much increase in traffic will we see during the construction phases, both on northbound and southbound 896, getting on and off I-95?
So the way that we currently have the project phased, which I think even it's one of the things that when we have our CMGC contractor on board won't change. We do realize that we have to maintain those existing ramp movements. So, the two southbound, let me go to the existing interchange, easier to talk about. So the four heavy ramp movements today are your ramp A, which is to go from southbound to go to Newark, your loop ramp to go southbound on 896, and then conversely, northbound on 896 to go on 95 north, and then southbound 896 to go on northbound 95. So those four ramps are always going to have to be open during peak hour construction. There may be nighttime ramp closures. That will be the only time we'd be able to close those ramps. We are looking at longer term detours for the northbound off ramp to 896 so that we can construct this area in Iron Hill. And then the last phase of the project, the way we have it phased, we do have a detour for the two ramps from 896 on southbound 95. But those, like I said, those ramps are very low volume, and the detours for those are pretty easy. We just basically take people up to 273 and turn them around. Obviously, local traffic knows the back roads to get around, but that would be the main detour. So we won't be driving any more traffic to 896 than is there today.
Okay. Question regarding the flyover ramps, will they be full speed?
Yes. So I can go through the design speeds of the ramps. See if I can pick. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So for the ramp D, which is coming out of Newark to go north on 95, that'll be a high-speed single-lane ramp, 50 miles an hour. The off-ramp from 95, flyover that wraps around and goes south, that'll be a little bit of a lower speed ramp. That'll be a 35-mile-an-hour ramp, but it will be 2 lanes.
Okay. So I guess full speed is a relative term compared to the speed limit. So 35 miles an hour, not I-95 speed.
But you won't have to sit in the right lane of I-95 in traffic.
Correct. Good question regarding the crash clusters. I don't know if we had that display, but in general, how many crashes have we seen over the last 3 years? There it is.
I mean, it was 527 crashes we had from 2017 to 2020. Previously, we had pulled crash numbers from I think the 3 years prior to that, and it was in the same ballpark. It was 500 or 600 crashes. So the frequency of the crashes for the last 6 years, like I said, has been pretty much every other day there's a crash out here. A lot of the crashes are rear end crashes that we see. You get a lot of people trying to cut in at the last minute to get onto the off ramp. That causes accidents, but it's a lot of rear end accidents that we see on this interchange.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question about the number of trucks on 896 and a concern that this will generate more trucks. I think I can turn it over to Pam if she doesn't mind.
Sure. No problem. Hello, everyone. Thanks for participating. So there is truck restrictions on Old Baltimore Pike, and that does get monitored by not only the Newark Police Department, but also the Delaware State Police. So as much as we would love to limit the amount of trucks if possible, like the most we can do is sign that and make it something where the police can enforce it. But just want to bring it back to, the main purpose of this project is those crashes every other day. We had a few fatalities. We for sure want to make this a safer interchange. So that's the safety and congestion is the most important. But just back to what the participant's question was, is that we do have the truck restrictions on OBP, and any issues with that enforcement can be directed directly to Newark or the state police.
Okay,
Hope that helps.
Yep, no, thank you very much. I think that was a good answer. All right, there are several questions regarding Section 106 in regards to Iron Hill, the Cooch's property. I just want to let everyone know all these questions are very, very important, and some of the more detailed questions we will follow up with you specifically. So I please, anybody on this Zoom presentation tonight, just know that we will follow up on some of these very specific questions. But I just, maybe in general, I don't know who wants to take this one. Maybe just in general, Steve, I think talk briefly about some of the minimizations.
So as I said, we had several, if you went to our first workshop, we have alternatives. We had two of the alternatives that had major impacts on Iron Hill specifically. And that's where we went with the double flyover. And like I said, the biggest, one of the biggest things that at least with the environmental group was that we weren't having impacts to Iron Hill and no impacts to Cooch's Bridge Historic District as well. We're not going encroaching onto those properties, not for temporary, not for anything. So we're completely off those properties.
Yep. All right, thank you, Steve. We have several other questions coming
and there,
in.
Bill, just to
go ahead.
play on or to add to that. I mean, as part of NEPA and direct correlation and working with the feds, we do have to abide by all of those Section 106 requirements. So if there are specific questions that you have, we would be happy to direct them specifically to our environmental section, not also within DelDOT, but also the Fed. So if you do have those specific questions about 106, if you could please email Brad at bradley.damtoff@delaware.gov. We will be able to answer those directly for you. So.
All right, thank you, Pam. Okay, the next question is about, I guess, barrier walls. Is there any other devices used to limit the cut-through drivers with the new plan? So I think in general, there are several safety devices out there, but I think the concern here is potentially cutting over 896. I think, Steve, do we want to touch on that a little bit? 896 will remain similar to as it does today.
Yeah, 896 will remain very similar that it is today. The medians are getting reconfigured in some places, but it will still have the median that runs down there as it is today. The only difference is the one bridge will have a bridge pier in the middle of 896 here. But other than that, we're not really changing anything on 896 itself.
Okay, thank you. All right. Again, there's a question, and I believe this is regards to the larger I-95 project. The question is, how does this project interface with the I-95 project? Will it create more congestion initially? So I don't know, Steve, you want to touch on kind of the timing? This project will not be until after that project is complete.
Correct.
Yep, that is correct. And we don't anticipate any overlap on that.
Correct. All right. several similar questions. Hey, there's a positive one. Thank you for the shared use path over I-95. So that's always good to hear. Thank you for that. Question here regarding consideration for longer turn lanes going 896 northbound to turn on 95 south. I think a lot of that will be addressed with this new interchange. So there's just some concerns there with the volume of traffic now trying to get on and off of the interchange. Let's see, we've got a couple more. Are any of the businesses going to be impacted to the north on 896 during construction? I'll send that to you, Steve.
There would just be some temporary impacts, but we would not be closing any of the business entrances or anything. We'll have to work with the contractor there. We're just reconfiguring some of the entrances for ADA requirements to do the widening for the path. So that's why we're getting those temporary construction easements. But no, we wouldn't be having any direct impacts to the businesses.
And on that same line, there's another question. Just says, will the 95 northbound entry ramp be shut down during construction? Similar, maybe touch on that a little bit.
I'm sorry, what ramp is that?
It would be the ramp A.
No, so ramp, like I said, ramp A, that ramp will not be. The only time it could be, I could say it won't be. If it is, it would have to be a nighttime detour. Those four major ramps, with the volume that traffic that we have, the detours that we'd be looking at would be at night, and it would just be for tie-in work. The way that the interchange is being constructed, it was laid out so that we could maintain those four existing traffic movements as we build it. So again, it would just be nighttime work to do the tie-in work for the new ramps.
All right, a question. You mentioned a third lane on 896 south of 95. This exists today as a turn lane. Will there be a new dedicated turn lane on the Old Baltimore Pike?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, what is the turn lane will become the through lane, and then we'll have a new dedicated right turn lane.
Okay. And then question regarding the shared use path. It's kind of the termini. Where does it begin and where does it end?
So at the south end of the project, let me turn on. So at the south end of the project, you could see it here. So we're going to bring it through the OBP intersection and then tie it in with what I guess is what used to be old South College Ave. So it'll tie in there and then continue down on the existing shared use path. To the north, it'll run up to the corner of the Welsh Track Road intersection, and then we'll have a bike box there. So at that point, there is no facilities to the north. There's a sidewalk, but for bicycles, there's not a shared use path. So at that point, the riders would have to use the road as they do today.
Okay, thank you very much. Another timing question. How will this project coincide with the listed 89640 flyover project to the south?
Currently, the 40 project is in the CTP for FY24. So it would start, the way it's programmed now, it would start a year after this project. So there would be overlap.
Okay. Thank you. We answered that question. There were several questions regarding the right turn lane southbound on 896 on the Old Baltimore Pike. Question regarding speeding south of the interchange. The concern with the addition of the third lane, it was a suggestion for potential speed cameras. So I think we can say to that, that's a separate study that Delta Traffic will look into as this project moves forward, but we understand that concern. All right, so everyone, please keep the questions coming. And then again, we'll answer some of the specific questions, and there's several, I think, comments in general So please go ahead at the bottom of your screen, Q&A, or send emails separately too. So what we'll do too, so we don't forget to say it, this presentation will be placed on DelDOT's website, and you will have the ability to access that and touch on questions and answers there to submit questions. So another one just came in. For southbound 896, will there be 1 or 2 lanes? If only 1 lane, I see an issue with folks attempting to merge to those already at the exit. So maybe go back to that slide, Steve, and just show that.
So southbound 896.
I believe coming out of Newark.
So southbound 896 coming out of Newark going onto the lane there. So they'll be coming out of Newark. The 896 will be 2 lanes. So coming south, it'll be 2 lanes. And then the ramp lane will be to the separate. So 2 lanes will carry through. So 1 lane to the right will get off of the ramp, and then 2 will follow through. And then you can see the 2 lanes. So the 2 lanes here will come across the Christina River as it does today. And then the 1 lane will drop off for people that are going to go southbound on 95, and then 1 lane will continue across the bridge. And what that does is it allows our 2-lane ramp, as you remember, for our southbound 95 to 896 southbound. So we can merge those 2 lanes on. Dropping this down to 1 lane allows us to do that merge better.
Right.
Because we merge into a 3-lane section.
Yep, good.
And Bill, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to chime in for, I know that there's been a bunch of questions about the construction timing and the timing of lane restrictions and such, and we're for sure not trying to not tell you anything, but what Steve had kind of pointed to is that since we are bringing on the potential contractor very shortly, we're going to work hand in hand with him to come up with what the best maintenance of traffic scheme is going to be. So rest assured, this is not the last time you're going to hear from us. You're going to see our faces a lot, fortunately or unfortunately. So we will be having a robust campaign to keep you informed. We're going to have an up-to-date website. And you know, the public and stuff will be able to chime in with questions and everything. So just wanted to rest assured that this isn't going to be the last time you hear from us. And then there are like bulldozers out there. So just wanted to remind everyone. Sorry.
No, thank you, Pam. That was very, very well said. I mean, I think that's the key, that this is a continuous process, and I think as we get more involved with the phasing, we will be back out. There's a question, Steve, and maybe just real quick, some people joined late that missed the presentation. Just kind of go through the main movements real quick on this display, kind of from 95 southbound to 95 or 896 southbound, etc. There's a couple questions on that as well.
Okay. My laser pointer not working? There it goes. All right. So basically the 4 main movements for the new interchange. So if you're coming southbound on I-95, to get off to go to Newark, you're going to get off as you would today, and there's a ramp that'll merge onto 896 northbound. To go south, better show you here. To go south, you'll get off of the same exit. The traffic will split, and then there's a 2-lane ramp that flies over 896 over I-95, and then we'll merge back with 896 southbound. If you're coming south out of Newark on 896, you want to go north on 95, you will take the flyover ramp that goes over I-95, up on Iron Hill, across 896, and then we'll go out and merge back with I-95. And then the other big movement, if you're going northbound on 896, is the same as it is today. We're just improving the geometry of that ramp. And then, as I said earlier, it already requires 2 lanes today. So that'll be a 2-lane ramp in the future that'll merge on I-95 here.
All right, thank you, Steve. Just some general questions about anticipated timing on the award of this project. And I believe that would mean to the CMGC team. So I don't know if Pam or Brianna, you would like to take that one.
Sure, I can chime in. Yes, so we have proposals in for the contractors that had submitted proposals. So we plan on having the selection process, doing interviews, and then bringing a contractor on board in the next month or so. So at that time, we'll go full on board with immersing them in the project. We will also have our independent cost estimation firm on board to help us along with the process to make it the most efficient, innovative, cost-effective project we can. So for sure, more to come. It's everything is kind of in the works right now, but all of the players are going to be on board in the next couple of months. We'll get to work and then probably report back to the public later on this year with some updates.
All right, thank you, Pam. All right, there's some just some general comments regarding the speed limits remain lower at the end of the bridge, allow slower speeds merging. We've seen that a couple of times tonight, so we appreciate those comments. And a question, Steve, or comment regarding northbound, again, northbound I-95 to northbound 896. So I think kind of the interim projects, I'm addressed some of that, but the concern was the ramp merging onto two lanes. So we're, again, you know, we're keeping that in the single lane in the future.
Yeah, so as you get off, going northbound on 95 to go on 896 northbound, as I said, the configuration on 896 between the ramps to the south and then these two ramps here, it's going to be single lane in each direction. So if you want to make that left turn, you just have to go across one lane of traffic going to the south, and then there will still be that acceleration lane that exists today. So that configuration will still be there. And the 896 between these bridges, just want to reiterate that we're not removing pavement. We're not changing the bridges. It's literally just restriping it to one lane. So in the future, if it necessitates two lanes, then it could be restriped and, you know, that could be done.
On kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, Steve, 896, there was a question regarding the merging traffic on 95 northbound. So maybe again, I think, you know, there's X number of lanes on 95 and kind of explain where the two ramps merge and how that's going to work.
Okay. So, you know, let me go to the next slide. It's a little easier to see. So on this slide, you can see it a little bit better. So today you have, you know, so you have 4 lanes on I-95. Right now it's 3 lanes because we have a drop lane here for this ramp, and then we created a merge lane for this lane here. In the future condition, I-95 will go back to 4 lanes. So today, as I said, prior to our interim project, you had the loop ramp that merged on here, and then you have a very short distance between when all this heavy traffic is merging on northbound 95, and then you have the traffic from northbound 896 also merging. So you can see how close that merge distance is. So in our revised configuration of the interchange, we're taking this 2-lane northbound 896 ramp, merging that on to I-95 and giving a great bigger distance. I think the minimum requirement's 1,000 feet. I think we extended it to 2,000 feet. Just, you know, we expect the traffic obviously is going to continue to grow. So we've separated that out. And what that does is it's allowing this traffic to merge in with these 4 lanes of I-95 traffic before the ramp D flyover. So when you can't really see in this picture here, but ramp D as it goes along 95 here is separated from I-95 with a concrete barrier. So these people can't merge on I-95 until we get all the way down the end of the ramp. So all the traffic's been allowed to merge over, and then we introduce the next merge to the north.
All right, thank you
So
very much.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was like, go ahead, you're good.
No, so that's why the project we're extending so far to the east. I always want to say north because 95 north, but to the east in the direction. And that's because we're extending out the merges in both and the diverges in both directions to allow traffic to get over into those lanes more safely.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we're at 6 o'clock. There's a time for a couple more questions. There's two in general, Steve, talking about the crosswalks at the Glasgow High School entrance. Will they remain, or will anything be changed with that?
Yeah, we're not touching that intersection at all. Like I said, we're just carrying that third through lane through OBP, and then that lane will merge back into the 2-lane section prior to the Glasgow High School entrance. So we're not touching that intersection at all with this project.
All right, thank you very much. All right, with that, let me turn it back over to Brad, and he's to say a couple closing remarks. And again, I think, thank you everybody. It was excellent questions. We are really excited when the public is engaged. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
Thank you, Bill. So I just want to thank everybody, reiterate what Bill said, and thank everybody for taking your time to come to our presentation tonight and allow us to give you an update on where we stand with the project. I know this whole team is very excited about the project. It's something that's anyone who's driven through or drives through that interchange knows how badly needed improvements are out there. So again, thank you all for taking the time tonight. This presentation will be posted on DelDOT's website later this week. And I encourage everyone to also, on that website, there will be a link for a comment form. So please utilize that for any additional comments that you have.
All right. So thank you everybody for attending this evening, and we really appreciate the feedback. Everybody have an excellent evening, and thank you very much for your interest in this project. Have a good night.